My $12,000 ATV. The only thing that gets me to my VA appointments was taken right out of my driveway, and the thief, the 19-year-old daughter of the HOA president, live-streamed herself doing donuts while laughing like it was a show. They said she was untouchable. They forgot one thing: I'm a combat engineer. I don't chase, I set traps. That morning started like any other. Desert air, cool, quiet, the kind of silence that tells you something's about to change. I rolled the garage door up and felt that hollow before my eyes even registered it. The spot where the ATV should have been empty. No gasoline smell, no cooling ticks, just concrete. Roared past the front of my house. Brooklyn roared past the front of my house, Brooklyn Thornfield. My ATV under her phone held high live stream on. She laughed as she hit the throttle. Gravel sprayed across my driveway. Across the street, standing by her perfectly trimmed mailbox, was her mother, Delilah Thornfield, the HOA president. She didn't shout. She didn't act surprised. She smirked. Then she called out, "Crystal clear, deal with it." I didn't run. I didn't yell. I just stood there because something in that smile told me this wasn't just a stolen vehicle. It was a declaration, and that was the day everything exploded. To understand why the HOA president's daughter felt safe stealing my medically necessary equipment in broad daylight, we have to go back 8 months. 8 months earlier, I thought Willowbrook Estates would be my fresh start. It wasn't flashy 847 homes, clean sidewalks, trimmed hedges, flags that actually came down after the holidays. After 2 tours overseas and months of recovery, quiet felt like a gift. A VA therapist leaned forward one afternoon and said something simple: "Garrett, build something." I asked what she meant. She said, "Anything with your hands, something you control." Control. Afghanistan took my lower leg, but what it tried to take was control. So I bought an old ATV frame from a farm auction outside Mesa, rusted, bent, forgotten, kind of like me. For 8 months, my garage was my therapy room. I designed custom hand controls because foot pedals weren't an option anymore. Throttle moved to my left grip, rear brake modified for hand pressure suspension, tuned for uneven weight from the prosthetic. Every bolt I tightened felt deliberate, like I was rebuilding more than a machine. The seat took the longest. I molded it around my prosthetic socket, adjusted angles, reinforced pressure points. The first time I rode it without pain, I didn't celebrate. I just sat in the driveway and breathed. In the mornings, I'd open the garage before sunrise. Desert air mixed with engine oil, fresh rubber gasoline warming in the tank. That smell became freedom. The ATV wasn't recreational. It got me to appointments without asking for rides to the grocery store over trails where walking long distances wasn't realistic. It gave me independence back. Most neighbors barely noticed. Carlos Vega, the pool guy, once said it looked serious. I took that as a compliment. For a while, things felt steady, predictable. Then about a week after I registered the ATV, everything shifted. One morning, I'd taken it out early to test a brake tweak, parked it neatly inside the garage, left the door open. 5 minutes, maybe less. The engine was warm, ticking softly. Later that afternoon, an envelope was taped to my front door, official HOA letterhead. Violation notice, bylaw 47C, unauthorized vehicle storage, $500 per day after 72 hours. I stood there holding the paper, replaying those 5 minutes. That meant someone had been watching. Maybe her SUV had crept down the street window down just enough to document. Or maybe she'd been waiting for someone who didn't match her idea of neat compliance. The notice wasn't neutral. It was sharp, eager. And there, printed in bold, was her name, Delilah Thornfield, HOA president. In that moment, I understood this wasn't about a vehicle. It was about power. In Willowbrook, the quiet wasn't peace, it was surveillance. I didn't panic. After 2 tours, of paper taped to a door doesn't spike my heart, it sharpens my focus. I read bylaw 47C twice. It applied to commercial vehicles, delivery trucks, landscaping trailers, construction equipment. My ATV was registered as a personal mobility vehicle. I had paperwork from the VA classifying it as medically necessary adaptive equipment. Federal disability protections applied. I made copies, checked the HOA site, and showed up for the next board meeting 10 minutes early. The meeting room smelled like industrial carpet cleaner and stale coffee. Folding chairs, a long plastic table, and Delilah, 48, perfect posture, perfect hair, perfect smile that never reached her eyes. She wore authority like perfume. When my violation came up, she read it calmly. Unauthorized vehicle storage visible from public roadway. Visible, that word again. I raised my hand. "Ma'am," I said, steady. The The garage was open 5 minutes. This vehicle is ADA Protected Adaptive Equipment. I handed copies to each board member. You could hear paper shift. Delilah didn't look down. She looked at me. "Mr. Steele," she said with a polite smile, "recreational vehicles are recreational vehicles. We must maintain standards." "It's not recreational," I said. "It's how I get to my VA appointments." A quiet ripple moved through the room. Then the back door opened. Brooklyn walked in like she owned the place phone already up. "Mom," she said loud, "is this the military guy you were telling me about?" Nervous chuckles floated around. Delilah's smile tightened. "We're discussing a resident," she said smoothly, "who believes his situation gives him special privileges." "Special privileges?" I kept my voice level. "I'm asking for equal application of the rules. By law, 47C prohibits commercial equipment. I've seen real estate staging inventory in garages for years." That changed the air. Brooklyn stopped smiling. Delilah tapped the table. "That's temporary business material," she said. "How?" No one answered. Brooklyn leaned into her phone. "Guys," she told her stream, "he's comparing my mom's business to his little toy truck." Toy truck. The vote came 4-3 to table the violation pending review. Not a win, not a loss. As the meeting broke up, I gathered my papers slowly. Outside, the sun stretched long shadows across the lot. I didn't mean to overhear, but they weren't whispering. Brooklyn laughed, light and careless. "Mom, it's just a toy," she said. "He'll fold, they always do." Delilah's reply was calm and certain. "If he doesn't, we have other options." No anger, just confidence. That's when I knew it wasn't enforcement, it was control. They weren't asking me to comply. They were testing whether I'd bend. I don't bend easily. Bend. 3 days later, my phone buzzed in the VA waiting room, a violation notice for loud engine disturbance at 2:14 a.m. My ATV hadn't moved in 2 days. By the time I got home, there were more emails, oil spill, unauthorized mechanical activity, all anonymous, all precise. The next morning, I saw black paint sprayed across the lenses of my 2 exterior cameras. Not smashed, just painted over clean, deliberate. Whoever did it knew exactly where the blind spots were. That night, engines roared down our usually quiet street. A lifted dirt bike idled in front of my driveway. Brooklyn on the pegs, phone up, revving. Gravel sprayed across the lawn. A beer can hit my garage door. Metal rang like a warning. She shouted over the noise, "Nisa TV in there." Be a real shame if something happened. The Jeep rolled closer, headlights washing my garage. They weren't hiding. They wanted me watching. "I called HOA security," Delilah answered. "Mr. Steele," she said, syrupy calm, "we've received no such reports." I held the phone out so she could hear the revving. Silence on her end, then a soft chuckle. "If you feel unsafe, perhaps Willowbrook isn't the right fit for you." She hung up. The engine circled for an hour, never crossing a line, just dancing on it. The next morning, 7 more violation emails arrived. That's when it stopped being harassment and became pressure, economic, psychological pressure. They weren't trying to win a complaint. They wanted to exhaust me, make me question my memory and my stability, push me into reacting badly. That would have been their win. I've been in places where pressure is weaponized, where confusion is a strategy. Their objective was to make me feel alone. I didn't feel alone. I felt clear. I closed my garage door and stared at the ATV. They thought this was a bylaw fight. It wasn't. It was escalation, and escalation requires preparation. That night, I didn't call security. I didn't answer a single violation email. I opened my toolbox and started thinking like an engineer. I didn't sleep much, not because I was afraid, but because I was planning. Emotion wastes energy. Preparation wins wars. I drove 40 minutes out of town and paid cash trail cams, infrared motion trigger cameras, the kind hunters use. Back home, I mounted them where the old cameras had been hidden along roof lines in a hollowed vent inside a fake irrigation box. Redundancy. If they found one, there'd be 3 more. I removed the seat from the ATV, pulled back the custom foam I'd shaped, and slipped in a GPS tracker, smaller than a matchbox, 30-day battery, real-time cellular ping. No visible wires. Then the kill switch. I routed a relay into the ignition line, tested it on, off, and synced it to an encrypted app on my phone. 1 tap, engine dead. Doesn't matter if the key's in. Doesn't matter if they're moving. 1 tap, silence. I rebuilt the recording system so every camera fed to a private server, then encrypted upload to cloud storage. Not just motion clips, continuous low-res background recording, so if someone smeared a lens, footage was already off-site. Redundancy. Most amateurs stop at one layer. It's never enough. By midnight, the garage looked the same: concrete floor, tool chest, TV tucked in a corner. But it wasn't the same. It was bait. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was controlling variables. They had declared escalation. They didn't realize I'd accepted it. Carlos, the pool guy, knocked first. He stood shifting his weight. "You got a minute," he said. He told me about invoices, emergency repairs, always routed to Thornfield's preferred vendors, inflated pricing. $47,000 for a roof patch that should have cost 12. That number hung in the air. Not sloppiness strategy. Meredith Hendress, 73, retired teacher, came with a manila folder. She'd been keeping records for 3 years. "This isn't governance," she said. "It's extraction." Jake, an old Army buddy and cyber consultant, pieced shredded HOA documents into printouts. Cassidy, a reporter, slid a folder across the diner table and said, "We've been tracking her for 8 months. Same pattern across 23 HOA communities, emergency work, sole source contracts, no bids. Conservative estimate, $4 million. Paperwork can take time. Forensic accounting takes time. FBI needs probable cause." Cassidy leaned in. "But a public felony theft of federally protected medical equipment documented on live stream with intent and identity visible that creates urgency. If Brooklyn committed that felony in public, it would give federal investigators probable cause to move fast. Warrants, computers, contracts, bank records. So I set the stage. I didn't call the cops when I had a clean burglary attempt on camera. I let it sit. I let them think they were winning. At 3:47 a.m., my phone buzzed motion at the rear garage. I pulled up the feed. Brooklyn, hood up, gloves on, working locks with a pick set. Professional. She wasn't drunk or sloppy. For 4 minutes, she was inches from my ATV. I turned on floodlights. She froze, looked into the camera, then bolted into a waiting SUV. She'd tried once. She'd been scared off. I didn't change the lock. I didn't call the police. I set bait. I put up a for sale sign on the handlebars, said out loud that a guy from Mesa was coming to buy it. Scarcity makes people act. By noon, a dark SUV had rolled by twice, slow and measuring. Perfect. If Brooklyn wanted it for dominance, for that social media victory lap, tomorrow morning would be her deadline. I left the garage door open. Lights off, bait. Obvious. Inside my house, I monitored systems, trail cams, live GPS synced, kill switch, armed cloud uploads verified. The choice wasn't mine anymore. It was hers. At 11:02 p.m., GPS pinged. The dot moved east toward the country club. Of course, she chose the stage. Brooklyn streamed live, 9,000 viewers, phone mounted on the handlebars, whined in her hair, laughing. She did donuts near the valet, crowds around lights and string bulbs, the perfect public spectacle. She mocked me on camera, taunted the viewers. She wanted witnesses, humiliation, dominance. What she didn't understand was she was broadcasting felony grand theft of federally classified medical equipment with identity and intent on record. I sat in my truck, watched. Then she said it. Maybe next time he'll remember his place. That was the last thing she needed to say. I hit the kill switch. The engine died mid-rev like someone pulled the plug. Confusion spread across her face. Then 3 black SUVs moved in, precise and quiet. Plainclothes agents stepped out. "Brooklyn Thornfield, step off the vehicle," one called. Her smile flickered, then snapped. Cuffs clicked. Her live stream, still rolling, captured her in handcuffs. Her audience watched as federal agents took her away. A text from Cassidy came through: search warrant executed. Thornfield residence secured. That public felony created immediate probable cause. Computers, hard drives, contracts, all subject to search. I walked toward my ATV. An agent stopped me briefly. "Mr. Steele, your property will be processed as evidence temporarily. It will be returned." I nodded. That was fine. The ATV had already done its job. Boxes, hard drives, file crates, the garage and mansion proved what neighbors had whispered for years. Delilah, on her marble steps, phone glued to her ear, went from confident to frantic. Calls to the mayor, to judges, nothing stopped the warrant. "You can't raid my home in the middle of the night," she snapped. The lead agent showed her the signed warrant. "Ma'am, this warrant was signed at 6:14 p.m. No courtesy call, no local protection." She dialed for help. Judge Watson recused himself. The illusion of influence fractured. Neighbors came out slowly, not cheering, just watching. Carlos, Meredith, Janet, faces I'd seen at summer barbecues, folks who'd been told to keep quiet. For the first time, they stood on the curb. Delilah's composure cracked when Meredith spoke about kids and threats. The lead agent read charges: conspiracy, wire fraud, racketeering. Those words don't belong in HOA language, but there they were. They led Delilah away. She saw me standing on the sidewalk, hands in my pockets, not gloating, just present. "You called my equipment a nuisance," I said quietly. "You told your daughter people like me should know our place." She had no answer. "This is what happens when local power meets federal law," I said. She tried to bargain. "My daughter will be home by morning." The lead agent paused. "Your daughter was taken into federal custody 45 minutes ago." The final illusion broke, not loudly but definitively. Willowbrook settled into a different quiet after that, the kind that comes after a storm. No fanfare, no victory dance, just a quiet understanding. Brooklyn took a plea: felony, grand theft, and civil rights violation, federal custody, supervised release, community service. Delilah faced RICO charges, wire fraud, conspiracy, federal prison, and asset forfeiture followed. The mansion went into receivership and sold quietly. But the real change was on Maple Ridge Drive. Emergency HOA elections brought Carlos in as president, not to hold power but to bring transparency. Budgets were posted, bids required. Pool costs dropped 60%. Security contracts renegotiated. People showed up to meetings because they wanted to, not because they were scared. The ATV came home after evidence processing. I rolled it back into the garage on a quiet Tuesday. No cameras, no audience, just the hum of the engine. It felt lighter. Not physically, but symbolically. It wasn't bait, not evidence, just transportation and independence, exactly what it was built to be. Word spread beyond Willowbrook. Veterans called with their own stories. HOA disputes, mobility, discrimination dressed up as community standards. So I did what the VA counselor suggested: build something. I converted half my garage into a small workshop, workbench, lift, adaptive control kits. Jake helped design safe kill switches for mobility scooters. Carlos sourced affordable parts. On Saturdays, vets pull into my driveway with wheelchairs, side-by-sides, trucks needing hand controls. We drink coffee, fix what needs fixing. Sometimes we talk about Afghanistan. Sometimes we don't. The point is autonomy. The first time I watched a Marine with double amputations take a modified ATV across a dirt trail, he laughed, not because it was fast, but because it was his. That moment made something clear. The Thornfields didn't fall because of revenge. They fell because systems crumble when light hits them. Truth isn't loud. It's documented, patient, structured. We used recovered restitution funds to open the Willowbrook Veterans Memorial Garden. Accessible paths, benches, a small bronze plaque that reads simply, "Freedom is built." Every evening I still take the ATV out at sunset. Desert air smells like sage and warm dust. No cameras tracking, no one circling the block. Just wind and distance. People still ask if it was worth it, all the stress, risk, waiting. I say this: calling the cops would have stopped a thief. Letting the system reveal itself changed a community. Power isn't money or connections or intimidation. Real power is knowing the law, understanding leverage, and having the patience to let arrogance defeat itself. Brooklyn said she was untouchable. She wasn't wrong, she was untested. Some illusions only collapse when someone refuses to look away. As the sun drops behind the Arizona hills and the engine hums beneath me, I think about that first white envelope taped to my door. They thought they were disciplining a resident. What they really did was wake up a combat engineer, and sometimes that's all it takes.